Okay.
All right. Hello, Dr. Dato Vicks. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Vyasa, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Keeping well.
So, yes, very well. The kids are, they are very happy because we are here all the time.
Yes, yes. I think it's like a boon for them, being parents, being around all the time with them.
Yeah. The other day when my wife just asked my two boys, how are you
Uh,
feeling with staying at home all the time?
uh,
They say they're actually quite happy, being around. They'll be quite happy if we stay at home for a really long time.
yes. I think there will come a point where they will start hating us now. For being
Yeah. Yes. Well, just enjoy the time right now.
exactly. That's
Okay,
true.
so I think you just heard about the 3 p.m. stimulus by PM.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a fantastic package. They covered
Mm-hmm.
both employers and also employees, both their
Okay.
concerns. It's a bit
Okay.
short term also. I mean, hopefully this thing doesn't extend beyond than what it is now.
Okay.
But I think for a month or two, it should take care of a few things. I mean, especially
Okay.
from the employer side, because if the employers
Yeah.
don't have a company, employees
Yeah.
cannot work in it. So my point
Exactly.
was
Exactly.
that so we need employees to be healthy, and I think this stimulus package is attempting to do that.
Yeah, that's why I think I was just having a brief glance on it. I think there are a lot of
Mm.
things like 600 ringgit for employees if like the companies do not doing well, some things
Yep.
like that, right?
Yes. I think for employees and also even for an employee, they said 1,006. If I'm not wrong, for
Okay.
B40, M40 also they're taken care of. Most of the time,
Okay.
people complain that people just take care of the B40, but they don't look out for the M40s. But in this
Yes.
particular announcement, M40s also were taken care of. There's
Okay.
some news for the retirees also. I think it's 250 ringgit will be put into retirees
Right.
account on top of what they are getting now. I think it's
Okay.
quite a good package they have given this time.
Right. Especially at this time, everybody is so worried about, losing jobs, and
Yeah,
the companies are very worried about, how am I going to survive with, paying all the staff and all.
yeah,
So it I think it's a good time to have all of this in place.
yeah. I actually had a conversation with few of my former colleagues in the government before this thing came
Okay.
up. So my
Okay.
highlight to them was very simple. I said, don't talk
Right.
about about SMEs out there,
Right.
because we have a lot of SMEs who actually what do you call their cash flow is limited to a month or two. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
doing business and they just have enough money to pay for their salary for 1 or 2 months or maximum 3 months. I think
Mm-hmm.
concentration should be given more on that. That was what I emphasized to them, lah. And
Mm.
quite see some of my suggestions were taken up. I'm sure they would have thought of it also. Of course,
Right.
me telling them also is actually a sort of satisfaction for me. And one of the suggestions that I gave from HRDS point of view, when
Right.
they asked me, I told them they should what do you call stop collecting the levy for 6 months, especially
Okay.
for companies.
Right.
It will give them some ease on cash flow. Means they don't have to
Right.
think
Right.
of it, and that suggestion was taken up also, and 6 months reprieve was given. Not good for
Oh. Okay.
HRDS, not good for
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I think it's good for the country. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's around almost 30,000 companies who are paying levy, and
Wow.
hopefully that those are the companies will get good reprieve from it.
Awesome. Awesome. That is with the new package launched just at
Yeah,
3 p.m. Right?
just 3 p.m. That was the new application launched.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. I think companies need all the help they can because they are supporting a huge number of staff altogether. So
Exactly.
if companies fail, then the whole system starts failing down.
We cannot afford for the SMEs to drop. That's
Yeah.
my concern, biggest concern. Because we need the SMEs to survive. Because
Right.
around 1 million plus, that almost 2 million people work in the SME sectors. We
Yeah.
need them to survive. No means it's going to be a systemic collapse. It's going to be very bad. So
Right. Right.
government
Right.
account into that, and I think they have come up with a good package.
Right.
Of course, the announcement has been done. Uh, the most important thing is the implementation of the announcement. Sometimes
Right.
some agencies fail to implement it, what has been announced by. Hopefully, I think this time the government will be much more serious in make sure that whatever announcements they make will be implemented accordingly.
And fast lah, so that it reaches down, right?
Yes,
Because
exactly.
it has to reach down really fast, otherwise
Yes.
companies can collapse lah.
And another thing is not too much regulation to include. I mean, sometimes people put into a lot of these rules and stuff like that that will actually make it difficult for people to get the incentives. They shouldn't do that also. The objective is to
That's
ensure
true.
that what you call incentives reach the right people with minimum hassle.
Right.
Thing. Of course, we need some
Right. Right.
control,
Right.
but it shouldn't be too much.
Yeah. True. 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 That I think there are many times where some good intentions by the government,
Hmm.
the current, past, and previous. So, but every time it's launched, it doesn't really reach the end targeted audience lah.
Correct.
Okay.
We, sorry.
Yeah. So, Dato Vicks, shall we get into topic today?
Yep, we should.
Okay, so to all of us here, let's say hello to Dato Vicks, and just say do your likes, do your hearts, and send some love to our speaker here today. Okay, and today let me just introduce Dato Vicks a little bit before I introduce the topic for today. Dato Vicks, he actually began his working life very young by beginning as a helper in his mother's tea stall. All right. Then further on, and that's where he gets a lot of his cooking skills, which we can see in his Facebook posts lately, right? The
Yes, yes.
tozes and idlis always makes me really hungry, by the way. Okay, so his career after graduation started with an SME, which LIA and KLCC, where he was involved in the solution selling 3M products. Okay, in the recession era of 90s, he was a salesman of copier machines, where again solution selling was the key mantra. Later, he ventured into service support field, where he was one of the few that was trained in the field of IPv6.
That's
Right.
right.
Moving on from there, he ventured into downstream activities of oil and gas field, where he was in charge of 60 engineers worldwide. Okay. From there, he moved on to Job Street and later to HRDF, where he started as a GM and later becoming the chief executive. While he was there, he really advocated the awareness of IR4, which you'll be hearing today, and the applications of IR4 when it was first introduced in Germany. All right. So post HRDF, Dato Vicks has been dedicating his work to build human resource capabilities among the leaders of business organizations and entrepreneurs, mainly handling IR4. All
That's
right,
right.
so he'll be a really good. He has spoken, from what I know, he has already spoken in a few conferences, even international conferences on IR4. So I think he'll be a really good person to share his what are his thoughts and also the myths surrounding IR4. We hear about IR4 all the time, IR4 here, IR4 there, but what is really IR4? All right. So today he's going to share the three myths surrounding IR4. Okay, Dato Vicks, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Vyasa. So, this IR4, Industrial Revolution 4, was started in Germany. I mean, they started it off. In fact, the
Okay.
word of revolution was not really preferred by what do you call the Prime Minister of Germany. She said revolution doesn't sound too well, so it was Industrial 4 actually. But
Okay.
when the World Economic Forum picked it up, they named
Okay.
it Revolution 4 because the first industrial revolution started in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and the second one started in the 1900s, early
Right.
1900s. The
Right.
third one, of course, in the 1950s, 60s, that era, and now
Okay.
it's the Industrial 4. So,
Right.
a bit of background of
Okay.
industrial revolution.
Right.
When production started to get increased, people
Right.
start looking on how to increase production and how to
Right.
do it efficiently. So
Okay.
the first industrial revolution started when they started to using steam engine to replace the, what you call, manpower, the real manpower. I mean, when you go in and do things, they use the steam to what you call replace it. The second one, they started it as when electricity was used. Believe it or not, the second what you call revolution was not started by Ford. A lot of people think that's a good example how he made a mass production through this line, what is production line. But the second revolution actually started in an abattoir actually. So the meat pieces, before they want to cleave it and they want to make sure that they cut it properly, they hanged it on the hooks and people were pushing it. Then they used electricity to push it. So that was the second industrial revolution. Of course, the third industrial revolution started in the 50s, 60s when computerization and stuff took over and microchips were into place. And the fourth is the current one that we are talking about. So it's in a very simple nutshell. These are the four industry revolutions has been going on, and there's a lot of myth. I mean, one of the things that really attracted me to the industry four revolution four is the story I heard from the Google X team. So they visited us one day, and they told us that this particular supermarket in US actually
Right.
sent product where telling, I mean, pregnancy products to the house. So
Okay.
the leader of the house got a bit angry. He said, "Look here, my wife has closed production. We
Okay.
don't have any more kids, and my daughter
Right.
is 14 years old. How can
Right.
you what do you call 14 what do you call pregnancy related products to my house?"
Right.
Then the VP of the what do you call the supermarket went down to apologize. Then later the father apologized. So what happened
Right.
is, based on the purchase behavior of the daughter, they have decided what the browsing of the what do you call whatever products they were looking. They said, "Look here, someone is pregnant, so we should send some pregnancy related products to this person." So that actually
Mm.
got me into this particular. I mean, this whole what do you call IR 4.0 thingy when I was in HRDF. So
Okay.
what we went is we went and speak to the guys who actually created it, the German Plus. We spoke to them and we tried to understand what they are doing. And at that point in time, we had a good partner. And Penang Skills Development Center was the partner because they had a lot of industries in Penang who were trying to understand, and implement this IR 4.0. And we took them up and we started rolling out things. So fast forward almost 5 years now after we first rolled it out. And of course, at this point of juncture, also I should tell that I mean, not we, HR Rehab at that point of time where I was working, they brought it up. They brought the first, what do you call, Harvard Business course outside of Boston into Malaysia. So this one of the biggest thing that we have done, something to do with data analytics and stuff like that. So in a nutshell, that's what happened. And in fact, I presented a paper in the World Bank to talk about the effects of IR 4.0 on the industry and also on HR. One of the things that I spoke about is if everything is automized and everything is robotized, where is HRDF going to collect the levy from? Because the levy is collected from the salary of the staff who's working. And if we continue to pursue this, and HRDF should look for another way on how to collect levy in order for us to train more people. So that's something that the crux of the paper that I presented to World Bank at that point of time. So that's about it. So now coming back to our topic again. Why do I want to talk about these three myths of IR 4.0? Actually, there's a lot of myths, but I think these three are the major myths that has been going on in the industry. I would say there is a lot of false gurus popping up. Everything is now IR 4.0. Anything they want to do, they just put an IR 4.0 to it and they just try to sell their products to it. And I find it a bit disturbing to see that people who are not who don't really understand what IR 4.0 is, and the biggest part of any successful what do you call project is on the implementation part of it. So now, after I left HRDF and after I did my masters, what I've done is I spoke to a lot of industries and we are starting to talk to them on how do you implement the IR 4.0 in their workplace. So, of course, I don't go to see the big boys. The big boys are handled by the big boys. I speak to a lot of SMEs out there, and we try to guide bosses of the SMEs on how to implement IR 4.0 in their workplace. So that's what we are trying to do now. So the first myth is I would say that some of them go and tell these guys that IR 4.0 is very easy to implement. They say a lot of these consultants, what they do is they go in, they say, look here, this is my product. You just plug it in and it will work. And you are already like a magician of Allah. IR 4.0 is implemented in your organization, and most of the time when they fix this kind of ready solution, that means we are not sure on what the customer needs, what is the pain point is, and what is the real issue the customer wants to look at. And we just give a prefix solution to people because a lot of people just want to get into the bandwagon of IR 4.0. And when that happens, after a year plus, they say, oh, this is waste of money and we don't want to get involved in IR 4.0 anymore. So the first myth is easy to implement. One of the things that
Dato, can I hold you for a short while? I think one of the questions raised, I think because we are having a lot of people here and some of them don't really understand what is IR4. Would you be able to just give a quick explanation of what IR4, I think some pillars and all, right? Would you be able to share with the audience here?
There is the IR 4.0 is basically, okay, in a very simple term, IR 4.0 is zero defect productivity. That's about it. Assuming that you will run a manufacturing sector, zero error input, that means zero error output. If you are in the computer term, it is called garbage in, garbage out. So the idea of IR 4.0 is make sure you don't have any kind of error in the beginning when the process starts, and also the end will be failure free. So that's one of the things. So inside it, there's 9 pillars. Of course, some of them have developed it up to 11 pillars. IoT is one of the pillars. We talk about warehousing is one of the pillars. Also, big data analytics is one of the pillars. There's 9 pillars to it. You can read about it. Internet has a lot of this write up on it. But nevertheless, each one of the solution is sometimes interdependent on each other solution, and sometimes it is by its own. It stands still. So these 9 pillars actually is the base that what IR 4.0 is set upon. Now there is 11, as I said. So now just take one of the pillars, IoT, Internet of Things devices. The simple things like controlling your house fan, aircon, lights through a device where you have an interface where you can actually Alexa or something like that. You can tell it to actually off the fan in the house or light in the house. This is one of the IoT devices, and it is considered as one of the Industrial Revolution 4. Big data analytics is very big part of it. If you are in a production, just say you are doing production or you're doing, in fact, if you are in a non-production, a service industry also, you need to collect data. So like what I said, where the first myth is easy to implement, this is where most of the problem comes, because their organization has not been doing this data collection. Assuming, I spoke to a supermarket recently. So I asked them, they said, Vicks, I want to implement this IR 4.0. How do I do? I don't know how to go about it. So the first question I asked them is, do you keep track on what is being sold? They say yes. So do you analyze on what is being sold when? Simple thing. Just say you're selling a pen, and assuming year end, where your sale is peak, where a lot of children buy the pen, or before examination and stuff like that. Most of the time, it's based on the assumption, but you need data. There's one of the phrases that I like to use is, in God we believe, others please bring your data. So you have to bring data. So in order for you to bring the data, you need to know what data you want to collect. So you can collect data. In some organizations, I've seen people started to implement IR 4.0 by collecting data, but they collect a lot of redundant data. So before you start collecting data, you need to ask the question on what kind of data do you want to collect. So if you want to do that, you need to frame the question properly. So it's to understand what your organization is, what's your pain point that you want to solve, and how do you go about it. So I give you an example. One of the clients that I spoke to, and we have implemented this particular IR 4.0. They came to me. They said, "Vicks, we have an issue. We want to implement IR 4.0 in our warehouse system." So I said, "Okay, let's look at it, and let's think about it." So when we started doing this analysis, I mean, most important is you need to sit down with the customer. You need to understand why they want to do it, and trust me, 99% of the time, people don't know what they want. So it's our part for us to educate them and tell them what do they really need. So these guys knew there was something wrong, but they couldn't pinpoint to me what exactly the issue is. So after 2 weeks of sitting down and discussing with them and tracking all these things, then later we found out the real issue was the invoice being issued on the products they give were wrong. So the correction process between the warehouse accounting office and also the sales office, that actually took 2 million ringgit worth of their what they call employees time. So they were just doing it wrongly, rectification after send to the debit note, credit note, those kind of things. Then I sat down, I calculated to them. I said, look here, this is how much you are wasting, 2 million ringgit worth of manpower just to correct all these silly mistakes. So we just put an IoT device in a few places. It automatically takes it in. Then we amended the software a bit where the what do you call the products is going out is automatically inputted, so there's no error. So when there's no error, they save this 2 million, save on this manpower that they're going to waste. And the solution we sold was a million worth, which they happily took. So,
Wow.
so, so the thing is this. So why I emphasize on the solution selling is for you to understand what's the real pain point and how we're going to solve it. Then it's going to be a bit more easy.
Right, right, right. Yeah, when you can see so much being saved, well, companies will be willing to spend that much just to save. You spend 1 million and you save 2 million. That's no brainer actually.
Exactly, but the ROI doesn't come immediately on the base of reduction of costs and stuff like that. You need to show
Right,
it to people, and
right.
you need to have the experience to see it from which angle that you can solve it from. I think that's
Right.
important. That's
Okay.
important.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So we have gone to the first point, first myth, the
Correct.
second myth.
So the second myth is it is very expensive to implement in the
Right,
IR 4.0 in your
right, right, right,
that's the thing that a lot of customers have the fear lah. When I
right,
speak to people, they straight away ask me, "Oh, how much is it going to cost us? 1 million, 2 million, 3 million?" So
right,
they are just trying to. I mean, without even trying, they straight away reject that idea. They say, "No, no, no, this is too expensive, and
right,
this is too going to be too expensive to implement." So this is one of the companies that we have spoke to also. They have machineries that are a bit old, 10, 15 years old. And they said, okay, look here, I got this machinery and I have a problem where I don't want to change my machinery because this machinery is 10, 15 years old. And if I'm going to implement IR 4.0, IR 4.0 started 5 years ago, I need to change all my machinery. It's going to be a few million ringgit and stuff like that. So that's not true. In fact, a lot of things you can start by simply just monitoring your devices. I mean, how do you monitor your things? So in this particular SME that we consulted, we told them, look here, you don't have to worry, you don't have to change any machinery. We will look at your current machinery and we will actually provide a solution where you can use change the analog to digital and use that digital to plug into another IoT device where you can actually track these things. So we provided those kind of solutions as well. So IR 4.0, it is not expensive to implement. Another thing, again, a lot of consultants try to do that. A lot of people who are trying to sell the products, they go and barge in and they just dump whatever they have on customers. That is not right to do that. So you need to understand where do you come from and how do you make sure that the customer sees it. So sometimes this misinformation goes out to people and they think that look here, oh, so I don't want to implement this IR 4.0 because it's too expensive for us. So that is not true. It can be as simple as from few thousand ringgit all the way to a few 100 million or so. So it depends on what solution do you need, what is your appetite, and as I said just now, we must understand the solution. I mean, what's the cost saving and what's the ROI we're going to bring to the customer, which I think after that the customer will sort of agree that.
Okay. Awesome, awesome. So you covered like the first myth. It's easy to do. You know,
Yes, right.
anyone can just simply go in and implement it. The second one is I didn't. I
Expensive. It's too
It's
expensive.
expensive,
Yeah, it's
right?
too expensive to do it.
And the third myth is
The third bit is it is tough to implement.
it's tough to implement,
Yeah.
right?
So it's
So it
two extremes to it, right?
right,
When people go in, they said, "Oh, it is very easy to implement," and they don't do a good job. They do a half-past 6 job, and most of the time, the customer is not happy, and they said, "Oh, this whole IR 4.0 is focus focus, and nothing real comes out from it," and
right.
people don't want to go ahead with it anymore. And the problem is when you have one unhappy customer, the word of mouth goes around, and they
Yes, yes,
influence
yes.
other people also. They say, "Oh, this is not right. All these
Right,
are mambo. There's nothing works and stuff like that." So
right,
that's one of it. But on the other extreme, some
right,
people make as though it is so tough to implement. You know, they
right.
say, "Change this. You must change that. You must go for this. You must go for that." I think that is not right. Uh,
It puts
uh,
away the customer, right?
yeah, it actually takes away. And most of the time, this tough to install is they will find all these companies where they have good cash flow, who's willing to spend the money and stuff like that, and they will dump everything they have on that. So for the third myth, my solution when I meet these kind of people, I always tell them take baby steps, take small steps, understand your issue first, make sure you do a study. Even though it's an SME or a big boy or something like that, you need to do a study to understand where is your pain point is. That is very important. And the way I give solution is what I will do is I will go for the low hanging fruits. I will identify what can be implemented immediately for them to convince their bosses that this is a good thing to do. So just give them one or two low hanging fruit. Okay, try to solve these things for them in a very efficient way. Then I think the bosses will be much more interested to listen to the whole package on what can you do in a totality. So as I said, two extremes. One is easy to implement, the other one is hard to implement, and the second myth I say is too expensive. So there are a lot of products coming in, and a combination of products can be used. In fact, IoT devices are not new. No, yes, sir. In 1960s, TI Texas Instrument have started these RFID products, radio frequency identification device products. In fact, when I was in what do you call in my early years when I started working with KLIA and stuff like that, we actually suggested some RFID products for them also. Basically, in fact, we in fact suggested to one of the catalog. One guys who were rearing goat. In fact, in Europe, it's very famous. So you tag each of the livestock and make sure that they graze on the proper places and they don't overgraze certain areas. Vaccination is counted. In fact, this became very famous. RFID products is when the mad cow disease came up. So they wanted to track back on the meat that has been come from the infected area. So they actually put RFID trackers on everything. So in a supermarket, when you go pick it up, you will know this particular meat came from which lot and which country at what particular point of time. So solutions are always there. So is whether we want to implement it or not, and whether it's worth for an organization to implement it or not.
Right. Okay. So thank you very much for the points, Dato. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
some questions are already coming in. Okay,
Okay.
so I'll read out the questions one by one. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, one of the questions is from the LinkedIn side is what is really, I mean, people have been talking about IR4 for some time,
Mm-hmm.
but in Malaysia, is it
Mm-hmm.
really being implemented? What do you see? I mean, you have seen quite a lot of companies.
Mm-hmm.
Are they, besides the MNCs, which are already implementing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they really implementing? And also, a lot of SMIs already implementing IR4 to help them.
Okay, as I said, this IR 4.0 is a concept, a combination of these 9 to 11 pillars out there. And
Right.
I've seen most of the SMEs, if you are doing PDCA cycle,
Okay.
We call it the PDCA quality cycle that you do.
Right.
If you plan, do, check, and analyze, and that cycle, if you do that, you are already put your foot on your on IR 4.0 already.
Okay.
It's basic, simple things. But how do you collect data to do your PDC cycle is where this IR 4.0 is going to assist you. So I would say that manufacturing side, most of them already got some kind of basic IR 4.0 going into their organization already. That means without this mumbo jumbo, all this jargon, all these
Right.
fantastic, expensive things coming in, they are already doing it. So it's just that the data collection point need to be improved, and the analysis part need to be improved a bit more further. Uh, One of the things that I always see in a lot of organization is they don't have the culture of this PDCA cycle. So that becomes a problem because now you're going to push in this IR 4.0 to them. If they don't have this culture of PDCA cycle in their organization, it's going to be tough for them to accept it. One of the famous quotes that I have is they say that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if you
Yeah.
don't have the right culture,
Right.
whatever implementations you do is going to be problematic. So it is already implemented in a lot of organizations. I've seen a lot of organizations, but in a very small scale, which is good, which is a start, and I think it will progress on.
So now we have the second question
Mhm.
from Tanusha Devi from Facebook. All right.
Mhm.
So, how do you ensure
Mhm.
big data is taken seriously among all sectors that would be transitioning into implementing IR4 solutions?
Yeah, it's a very big question.
Yeah.
It's a very big question. So,
Right.
I think big data is one, as I said, one of the key things that you need to have in any organization. You don't have to hire a very expensive big data engineer to do analysis for you. You can train your own people. In the sense of just say you have a statistician or someone who's inclined towards mathematics or statistics in there, you can start ask them to pull out data. When I was working in a what do you call online job company, we do it monthly before the IR 4.0 comes out came out. So what we do is we every month we look at the month to month performance. We look at where is spiking, where is not spiking. In fact, in the website, what we do is we try to find out which particular banner is much more sellable, who clicks more in which banner. So those are simple things you can do even without these big jargons like big data and IR 4.0 into it. So most importantly, even for an SME, you need to dedicate someone to do this analysis, someone to ask questions and someone to do analysis and someone to provide the data to you. Then the bosses can actually act on it and slowly you can build it up. So if I'm going to ensure, if you ask me, I would say that you need a big data officer in all the organizations out there. But of course, that's not viable. So, yeah, that's one of the things you can do.
Okay. At least some people who are educated on what is big data and how important it is for the organization.
Awareness is important. Awareness is important. If they already know, in fact, someone who with some basic statistic knowledge, they can start doing this big data analysis. Of course,
Okay.
there's a lot of free, what do you call, freeware programming out there. So you can,
Okay. 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 Some another question is, let me see, is by Sadia Safda. My
Mhm.
question is, how can IR4 be implemented on the agricultural sector in underdeveloped countries like Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh?
Yeah, I am not expert on agriculture sector, but
Right.
nevertheless, I will just talk about some of the experience I had in Australia when we
Right.
visited, when I was in HRDF, when we visited the Australian counterpart over there.
Right.
Australia is a mixture of this harsh dry land and also they have this vast agriculture sector over there. And what
Okay.
they have done is they have used this combination of data analytics and drone technology actually to find out on what are the places that they need to water, what are the places that has been infected by crops and stuff like that. And what they have done is, because manpower is so expensive in Australia, they have replaced it by using this drone and also this data analytics out there. So someone don't have to go run through the whole field the whole day to find out what is happening out there. They can deploy this drone, and this drone actually will actually survey these whole places and came back. In fact, they have built some quite a huge drones, like almost like a mini plane, one-seater plane or something like that, to deliver what you call pesticides, and also to deliver other things on the crop while on the board. So you just need one guy to sit on the console, look at it, and decide. The data can tell you that, okay, this particular area is actually infected by some disease. Let's spray something over there. So it is much more efficient. So I see these solutions are becoming cheaper and cheaper. And while they're getting cheaper, I think it's going to be more easier to be done in those areas out there. So. Sorry, I can't hear you, Vyasa.
I've also heard about some drone solutions, even in Malaysia, that they are using drones for oil palm plantations.
Correct, correct.
And also even in some farms where they reduce what 10 people can do in 10 days, they can reduce it to be done in just a few days, but with one drone.
Oil palm is something that is quite interesting. We have actually looked into that. Like what you say, some even have drones to go and cut the what you call oil palm harvest.
Right.
They can do harvesting, but it is need to be further developed. But one very simple. I mean, we don't talk about all this Changi drone and stuff like that. We talk about very simple solution. Your phone can install an app in your phone, and this app can actually track and monitor whether this guy is doing the job or not. And we can increase the productivity of the person by just monitoring them.
Right.
That's one of the solutions that one of my colleagues have done, and I think it's a good solution. So there is a lot of apps that can be used. Apps and also drones. But drones, of course, is too expensive. You want to deploy in too many places. But apps are there. You can download into. Everyone has a smartphone now these days. Just download the app and it can do the thing for you, the magic for you.
Right. Interesting. I mean, there are so many interesting things out there right now, right?
Sometimes I think it's not so good also, because if you increase the right of the employee, but nevertheless, it should be taken in a pinch of salt.
Right. Okay, so the next question is by Kogilawani Muniappan from LinkedIn. What's your advice, Dato, for educators, and how do we prepare our kids for IR 4.0?
Okay, I will tackle the kids part first.
Yeah.
So this question I get a lot of times, like when I meet up people, when I speak to them and stuff like that.
Right.
The future is going to be a combination of skills. It's not going to be just one skill. Assuming that you're going to take up medicine and you're going to become a doctor, you need some kind of IR 4.0 skills in you for you to do your job in the future. So it can be as simple as learning Python is one of the programming languages out there, so it's as good as that. Or just say you're a technician. This example I always give. Just say you are a technician handling a machine. Last time you just need there's a CNC machine out there, so it does this CNC work. And you're a technician. Last time you need to be qualified just as a CNC machiner. But now you need to know a bit of data analytics, a bit of security, because your machine that you handle can be hacked by someone else, so you need to know a bit of that. So a combination of skills is important. So no more that you say that you are good in this particular field and that's it. Now you cannot do that, and you need to actually combine a few of these skills together. So for educators, my question to them is this: you have this generation alpha now these days. I say they are born with gadgets. The kids now, this is my niece, nephews, 4-5 years old, they're born with gadgets and stuff like that. And if you see how they watch their YouTubes and other things, they just give it 2-3 seconds, then they just flip. So the attention span is going to be very short. So if the attention, and these guys are going to come into market maybe another 15 years time, or they're going to be in school and university another 10-15 years time. And what makes you think that they will sit down for an 8 hours lecture, or a 2 hours lecture, or a 1 hour lecture, which they are not going to be interested? So I think educators need to start dwelling on this particular kind of what do you call how do you convey the message to this one. And I saw one of the things talking about okay, in this post COVID environment, so I was having discussion with some of my trainer friends also. I was talking about it. So how are you going to have training? After this, people will be afraid to come in for training because there is contact, and you're going to put 25 plus in a room. It's going to be tough. And assuming that, I mean, this is my solution to them. I said, look, yeah, you must ensure that there's 1 meter space from each another, you know, and you need to bring the comfort for people to come out and attend trainings out there. So maybe this is another way to do trainings, when you do it on online and stuff like that. But all these need to be developed and further enhanced, so to make it a bit more interesting and for people out there. So for educators, start thinking, how do you going to do your delivery of your message? A lot of things, I always say that now Google actually has an answer for almost everything out there. So I can download a manual, I can start doing things without even going for an engineering course. Maybe the content also need to be revised a bit. What do really people need to?
Okay, got it, got it. Okay, so now another question by Hafizullah Irfan, okay, from LinkedIn again. How can we adapt IR4 in agriculture? I think that one has been answered earlier. And real estate.
Real
Have you heard?
estate, real estate. I've seen where an architect actually uses the 3D visualization using a Google. So when they put in when you get play the 3D games. So I have seen one architect actually spent tons of money. He developed a software where he did the design of the house, and he uploaded into the 3D VR system. You just wear the goggle and you walk through as though you're walking through the house. So
Oh,
has been done also. There's
wow.
one particular guy, but he spent tons of money to
Right,
do it.
right.
And such on. There's a lot of other things also real estate that I mean, in fact, now they have smart locks also, where you can actually go in, you put your barcode to the lock, the 3D barcode, and it unlocks by itself, so people can go and view the house. An agent don't have to follow all the time. Those kind of things have already been
Right,
introduced in a lot of other
right,
places.
right, right. Interesting, interesting. Okay, we go on to the next question. Impact of IR4 when we are having COVID by Prasanna Sailanathan.
Okay.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah. So there's two extreme possibilities lah. One is uh, companies don't want to do because they are much more thinking of how to survive this COVID-19. They said, "Oh, I won't invest on this IR 4.0. It's too expensive, too hard, and stuff like that." That could be one thought of it. But my thinking is this BCP, business continuity process. So a lot of organizations, when the MCO came out, when the MCO was announced, they didn't know how to set KPI. If you're going to have someone to work from the house, how are you going to set the KPI? What are the things they're going to do, and what are the tools they need going to do? So that is not present in a lot of organizations. In fact, when I was in HRDF, what we did is we started with work with home. We dabbled with it, and we successfully implemented, and we found that the productivity actually went up when people were working from home. I think that part of IR 4.0 might spike up if we sell it properly. I mean, if the solution is provided properly, I think that a lot of SMEs, SMIs will be very interested because I mean, I don't want to spread any bad news or whatever is it, but one of the studies showed that this particular COVID thing is going to be a seasonal thingy. It might appear every year or something like that. So there was one speaker who spoke about black swan, and now the black swan is going to be a common occurrence. Black swan is I mean, you see all white swans, suddenly you see one black swan.
Right,
It could be an anomaly, but now anomaly, like the VUCA word, right? It's going to be a normal thing in your life already. So a lot of SMEs should actually try to what do you call learn how to do BCP, business continuity process, and how are they going to implement it, and assume that just say touch wood, hopefully this doesn't happen. You see, I not shaved. So don't happen again. But if it happens, then we need to be prepared, a bit more prepared on this. So I think IR 4.0 can be used to
right,
solve all these problems.
Right, right. Interesting. I mean, with COVID, there might be a surge of need of IR4, right?
Yes, there might be a need. So it will be two extremes, lah. Two extremes.
Okay. The next question is by GD Naidu, right,
Mm-hmm.
from LinkedIn. If we move on IR4 focus,
Mm-hmm.
power consumption is essential to support cyber physical work.
Mm.
Okay, as you are aware, IoT is power. Uh, IoT devices are power consuming, right?
Mm.
And so, how do we intend to handle this area where it's more sustainable?
Mm.
While the other question, the second question is,
Mm.
uh, who is the actual data owner when data is consolidated through IoT? Oh, this is a little bit more complex question.
Yeah. Uh, as for the power consumption, people are working towards less power-driven devices, IoT devices out there.
Right, right.
Uh, as I stated, RFID when we were implementing, there is the battery RFID. The other one
Right.
is depends on the reader. It activates the RFID without even a battery installed in the RFID.
Yes.
So there is some sort of things out there, and I'm sure that people will come out with more solar-based and other devices where actually less power consumption is going to be needed out there. So I'm seeing that trend happening a bit more. When early 90s and the late 90s, when we were selling solar panel, when I was in Sharp, those days when we were selling solar panel, the biggest problem is the what do you call the battery. That how long
Yeah.
the solar can come in and the battery can hold, and how long
Yeah.
it goes out. So now the
True.
technology has improved much more better. Solar panel prices have come down a bit more, and data analytics is being used on make the solar more efficient and stuff like that. So I think that's going to be taken care of. Hopefully, it's going to be taken care of. And in fact, I think Malaysia have started to have solar harvest panels by TNB itself. I think they're going to the harvest solar. I think that's something that's happening. So there will be a surge of energy, but I think it will come to a point where all these devices will flatten the curve. I think that's the word that I think to look at. But the second part is a bit difficult. Who owns the data when consolidation happens through IoT devices? This is a debate that's happening in international era. I mean, arena. Everyone is talking about who actually owns the data, and the debate is still going on a bit. A lot of cloud providers. When I again going back to example when I was in HRDF, when we wanted to think, someone came in. They said, "Vicks, let's do a cloud where everything is uploaded into cloud." I said, "Cannot. HRDF is actually protected under the ACTA." And I said, "There's this particular ACTA. We cannot release information out to other people, and also there is a what do you call this Personal Data Protection Act, PDPA, and stuff like that. So how are we going to do it?" At that point of time, people cannot answer those kind of questions like 3-4 years ago. But currently, I think they are a bit more sophisticated. And a lot of these questions need to be addressed by companies who are handling the IR 4.0. Just say I'm an organization, I'm starting this IR 4.0 in my organization. I need to handle it upfront. I need to have the right what do you call agreements with what do you call non-disclosure agreements, and make sure that all these data are protected at the point of being done. And later we need to monitor that also. From my experience, one of the organizations, they had these particular IoT devices. They went through a third party. They had an NDA with the guy, but it was not enforced. So this guy was actually taking the data and doing something else with it. So when I went in, I saw that loophole behind there. I saw that particular breach that was happening. Then we covered that breach. So you need to do your what do you call groundwork, and you need to ensure that you covered all your angles. And I'm sure a later part there will be some legislation will be coming out to cover this thing when it comes big. All these things.
Right, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Next one is from Ravi Kandasamy.
Mhm.
Okay, during the current MCO, do you see any part IR4 has been implemented?
Mm.
Do you think IR4 is already playing a role in the current situation? Uh, Lastly, what will be the future for IR4 after the MCO, in your opinion?
This is three questions in one. So the current MCO IR4, I mean, especially data analytics has been playing a big part on predicting on the how the curve is going to move. That has been done quite badly. I think, in fact, the extension of 2 weeks is based on simulation done, and people and the government also is realizing that they need to be a bit more sterner in controlling the people so the disease doesn't spread. I think that a lot of data analytics has been going into it and predicting on how the whole thing move. I think the whole MCO came in with a data analytic what do you call capability which is out there. So they predicted that this thing might go out of proportion like the Spanish flu. A lot of them are not serious. You know, people, when I speak to some of them, they say, "Oh no, it's just a flu." But if they read history enough, they know that the Spanish flu actually wiped out, I think, easily one third of world population in 1918. So it
Wow.
just they just wiped it out. And people were falling and dying in just like that. So I think if you are a government, you have an institution knowledge, you will know that this thing has happened before, and you don't want to repeat it. So I think, but now it's good that we have this data analytics. We can actually predict a bit more. Maybe certain sectors or certain areas which much more affected, we need to control them better and stuff like that. Which I think we have seen also in Johor, one of the areas were locked down entirely because they thought, okay, this place might go out of control. So
Yes, yes.
we have
It's
seen that as well.
so data analytics actually played a big role during this COVID, especially to predict data, right?
Yes, right. To predict how the pattern will evolve, I think a lot of models have been built and that they've been doing it. And the future of IR 4.0 after MCO, as I said, I see definitely it will boom. There will be a lot of people who will be thinking on how to utilize the IR 4.0 to run their businesses, because if you are going to do something virtual or something out there, you don't need what you call physical interaction. It's going to take some time before people can gain trust on the physical interaction. It is definitely going to take some time, and the fear has been ingrained into us that it is going to take some time. And Of course, the other extreme will be people who say, okay, I don't want to care about IR 4.0. I just want to bother about how do I put the meal on my table the next day. So there will be two extremes. So we can see that.
Right. Okay. One more question, right, is by Ganesan. He asks, with all these technologies coming up, what do you think? What would be your advice on uh, future kind of jobs? What are the kind of jobs that will be in the future, 5 to 10 years time?
Okay, we don't have to go far, 5 to 10 years time. I mean, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, we never heard of a job called a data analytics engineer.
Yeah. Yes.
5 years ago, we never heard of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Again, when I was in HRDF, what we were trying to build is we were trying to build artificial intelligence to actually predict what kind of jobs or what kind of skills that will be required in near future. That was the ambition at that point of time when I was heading HRDF. So we said that, look here, this is we want to know what kind of skills or what kind of trainings people need in future. So we predict it a bit more upfront and we do it. So our model was supposed to be, we look at the European countries and also the Japanese or the Chinese countries. We look at what are the things that coming out from the what is cutting edge technology. We take it in and we predict how long does it hit Malaysia, and we start training people on that particular thing. So when it hits Malaysia, Malaysians are prepared. So in order for me to tell that what are the jobs required, in fact, if you read the World Economic Forum, they have come up with a 20 prediction top jobs that might come out. And I can tell you one thing: technical skills is on the bottom. What's going
Hmm.
to be important is your soft skills, actually, your speaking ability,
Interesting. Interesting.
your speaking ability, your decision making skills, your problem solving skills, your analytic skills. These are things that are going to come up hard on the future. As I said, technical skills is something that you can download from Google now these days. You can download and do it. So if my advice to kids, parents, I mean, to parents is, make sure your kids have mathematical skills and statistical skills. These two is going to be important, and make sure you just don't dump them in classrooms. Make sure they go out, attend some persatuan, join scouts, like we did. any St. John's ambulance or whatever is it, group activities and stuff like that. That is going to be a well thought out community in the HR, in the what you call HR fraternity, because these are the skills that's going to be lacking in future. So
Right.
the kids must be trained on how to talk, how to interact with other people and stuff like that. And if you look at World Economic Forum, the top 10 skills, 4 or 5 skills in the top is speaking about this all the time. Analytical skills, problem solving, and those kind of interactive with other people. Those are skills that's going to be needed.
What do you think? Are these skills being taught in schools enough right now?
No, no, definitely no, definitely no. I think especially the Asian education. Don't talk about Finland, lah. Finland is they have
Yeah.
reversed the thing. They have come up with some kind of a system where they let the kids play until they are 7, 8 years old or 10 years old before they put them in the classroom. We Asians have been so academically inclined. We don't let our kids to go out. I mean, I always tell those days, the 70s and the 80s when I was a kid, the only rule was to come back before the sun goes down.
Right.
That's the only rule I had with my parents actually.
Right.
The father said, as long the sun goes down, before it's okay. You go out, you interact with people and stuff like that. Now we are sending them to classes, taekwondo classes, swimming classes, violin classes, piano classes, every single classes we can think of. And the
Right.
interaction with other people is a bit more limited. And
Yes,
another
yes.
thing I would like to emphasize is before we conclude, almost conclude this is also, a lot of parents have this thing that the children is the center of the universe. They call them princess,
Mm.
and not you can do no wrong. There's no failure for you. I think those are things that we should not tell our kids. We should tell our kids, look here, if you screw up, you own up to it. If you did a mistake, that's it. You cannot come number one class. It's too bad. You are the last. So what? You do it. So I think we should inculcate this kind of resilience in our people. I was sitting down watching some apocalypse movies, apocalypse movies. I was looking at it, thinking of it. I said, oh, if something bad happens, I think I can survive the longest, lah. But you need to train your kids to be that resilient, lah. I think that's something that the parents should do now.
Yeah, I agree with that actually, because like I think, and this has been written quite a bit even in the Western world, that kids are too much the center of attention. So what happens is they become quite weak when it comes to interacting with people and all. And a lot of parents are also taking responsibility for the children's mistakes.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I want to tell a story.
Okay.
When I was in standard 3, I didn't do my homework. So my teacher actually caned me.
Yeah.
When the teacher caned me, I came back. Then after I took my bath, my mother saw I had these markings. Then my mother asked what happened. I complained to my mother that my teacher beat me. My mother went down. My father was downstairs. He called him up, and I got royal walloping. And what my mother did, she sent me to school. Usually I'll walk to school. This time she took a taxi. She went to the Pudu market. She bought extra 3 canes and gave to the teacher. And I remember the teacher's face until now. Cikgu Sharifah lah. She looked at me, took 3 canes, and she said, wait lah you.
No chance from the parents at all.
But I think that's what makes us a bit more resilient now these days. Accepting criticism and stuff like that. So we should be able to do that.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Dato, for answering all the questions here today. I think you answered them very well. And of course, there are more questions coming in, but we are coming to the end of this segment. And Dato, do you have any last few words that you want to share with the audience before you leave?
I think IR 4.0 is going to be the most important thing is going to happen, whether it's post MCO or whatever the economic situation goes, because employers are going to look ways how not to go into this situation again. So they're going to use technology to cover this out, especially the big boys like SMEs. They are going to do it also. SMEs are going to go into that. Assuming I run a 10-man company, now I cannot have people in my place. I need to still run my business, so I might go for automation for it. So definitely it's going to go. It doesn't mean that mankind going to be doomed, employers are going to be unemployed and stuff like that. We have passed 3 different industrial revolutions. So the first one, the second one, third one, and every time an industrial revolution happened, people thought they're going to be mass unemployment, the world is going to do, but it didn't
Yeah.
happen. I think we, as human beings, are resilient. We will learn up new skills and we will move on with our lives. Definitely, there will be a temporary, what they call unemployment and temporary issues, but I think the government will take care of it by intervening. And I think other than that, it is good. It is good. And thank you
Okay.
so much for asking. It's my pleasure talking to you.
You're very welcome. So, audience. So, thank you very much for following us. And let's, as usual, let us give us the like, hearts and all to our speakers so that they know, what they have shared is useful for you today in this last 1 hour. As usual, we always give them a big high five. So I can give a high five this way, right?
Yeah. Oh, this
Okay.
way.
This way. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much again, Dato Vicks, and hope to see you again in our segment again next time. And we thoroughly enjoyed your session. I think you gave a lot of details. Of course, IR4 is, we can't talk about it in just 1 hour. There are so many sub segments and sub details. We can go on and on. But thank you very much. And also for all the audience here, if you want to reach Dato Vicks, you can always go check out his Facebook under CM Vicks, Vicks. Let me just change this. Okay, okay. Under CM Vicks, and also in LinkedIn the same, right? He's reachable through both ways, right, Dato
Yes.
Vicks?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, and bye bye, Dato Vicks. Thank you again for your session today.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Okay.